Hey, what's up? Tuesday morning, December 9th. What's going on? Well, it would appear, according to some articles I've read, that Trump is very close to becoming a king. He's got the Supreme Court is going to expand his powers, executive branch powers, which should be illegal, but it's not. Uh, I think that just pushes us closer to a bad point in history, a very bad point in history. Now, there's such a thing as a good king and good people, and Trump isn't one of them. All right, Trump is a miserable son of a bitch who doesn't care about anything but himself and his personal wealth. He doesn't even care about his family. He'll throw them under the bus if it means he can get more money and become king. Trust me. Now, of course, the threat of a king is that you have a different order of succession. It's not political. It's goes to family, usually in royalty. Okay, and that's even worse when you look at some of the people in Trump's family. Now, I don't know what's going to happen with that. Like I said, I'm 80 years old. I'm not in the best. I'm not in perfect health. I'm in good health. But I don't know what's going to happen. I don't think anybody else does either. And it's scary as shit that this is going to be, that the possibility extends that there might be a royal dictatorship, if you would. You know, kings have no place in society today. They don't govern fairly. On a world stage, we would be looked at rather questionably because of his mentality, because of his mental state. You know, kings usually have absolute power. If he has absolute power, we're totally fucked. And the only way that's going to change is through, unfortunately, violence. A revolution of some sort, not a political revolution, a physical revolution, you know, where people actually die. And that's not fun, folks. It's not fun to see, not fun to write about, not fun to talk about. And like I said, I'm not so sure I'll be around to see that. I really don't want to see that. So, you know, I'm here to try and help people make decisions by giving them information to formulate opinions. And apparently nobody listens to anybody, not just me. They don't listen to anybody because everybody's got an agenda. My agenda is maintaining my sanity while I'm getting older and I have nothing to do, you know. I mean, I'm sitting here sweating like a dog doing this dumb video that nobody's really watching. You know, I got like 21 really loyal customers or followers. And they go and come, two of them, you know, and that's okay. I don't really care. I do care, but I can't care enough that it makes a big difference to me. You know what I'm saying? Because I'm just sitting here running my mouth trying to get things out of my system that I'm talking to myself about, you know, and I need to just do that and wait and see what happens to the world. All right? You got that all down? You understand what I'm saying now? Good, because I don't understand what I'm saying. Now, the Supreme Court is really pushing that, you know, and I don't understand the whole difference. It's all because he wanted to fire somebody and he said he couldn't because the agency isn't connected to the executive branch or something. I don't understand all the politics involved in all this crap. That's why I don't try to sit here and tell you this is wrong and this is right, because I don't understand a lot of this stuff, all right? I basically look at it from a moral point of view, you know, and a king is not something... I look at it this way. If they make Trump a king, then every soldier, every person that died in this country from 1776 to now, well actually 1774 or something like that, to this day, died in vain. That's the way I look at it. Millions of people just died in vain because there's no sense to anything that we've done. You know, we're regressing beyond the 30s and the 40s. We're regressing back to the revolutionary days. There isn't a country in the world now that's governed by a king. Dictators, yes, but kings, no. Some people say it's the same thing. Well, kings are actually slightly harder to get rid of than a dictator. Dictators usually are destroyed by an opposition party of some sort, like what happened in Cuba, or Argentina, or where else did it happen? Chile. We'll get to those countries in a minute. But that's just, the situation as it stands, I don't think Trump has any idea what he's doing, politically speaking, in terms of what his goals are. I think his goals are personal, and I think they change on a daily basis. Because I don't think he's right upstairs. And I'm pretty sure that Miller and the rest of that little group of idiots is controlling him, and we'll have to wait to see if they can continue to do that. Next up on my little list of depressing thoughts today is Maduro. They're trying to get rid of him. They're planning a coup of some sort, or they're planning removal of him as president, and they want to know what they're going to do afterwards. Okay, let's go back to, let's see, I think this was, what did I write this about? Chile. They had a president named Allende who was a right-wing, was a dictator, and they turned around, and with the U.S.'s support, they put in Pinochet. Pinochet turned out to be a military dictator. That's in South America, and we're not really well liked in South America because we take more than we give. And then we look down on South Americans, as you can see, in the immigration process and what's going on in the immigration. Trump's attitude is everybody down here is a drug dealer. I wish I was. I'd be rich, but I'm not. So I don't, and I don't do drugs either. I stopped doing them. Jesus, has to be a good almost 40 years ago now. Same thing with alcohol and cigarettes, Alcohol and cigarettes I just got tired of doing, because alcohol was changing my personality too much. Cigarettes just, weren't the thing anymore. Drugs I stopped because it was mostly pot and other drugs. I started getting very paranoid about it, and I just wasn't comfortable doing it anymore. And nobody else was really doing it, so, I wasn't getting the same out of it as everybody else was getting. So I said, it's not for me. That's all. That's the decision I made. Dealing with this Maduro thing, I don't see anything good coming out of that. I see a long-term problem. Because South America is a continent, and these guys can move around a lot. They get when Escobar was in power, he would go to Peru, get cocaine paste, bring it back to Colombia, and manufacture cocaine, and then distribute it. Now, from what you're saying, what they're saying all about the gunboats and everything coming out of Venezuela, what you're doing there is they're acting as a distributor, so you're not stopping the source, and you never will stop the source. They've tried everything, it just doesn't work. So you have to stop it. And if you can't go to the source, you have to go to the end point, the customer, and stop the customer from doing it. That's the best way that you can get rid of drugs. And it's been tried and tried and tried, and they can't do it. But it's the only, to me, it's the only method that makes any sense if you really want to stop drugs. But I don't know. But in terms of getting rid of Maduro, that's I think that's how you pronounce it. You got to understand, you had Allende in Chile, and they brought in Pinochet. Come on, look at I'm gonna shout Iran. okay, what it is today. We did several things that destroyed the stability of that part of the world. All right, when the Shah left, there was a vacuum. It was filled by the Muslims, by the Muslim hierarchy. Okay, the Khomeini, the Ayatollahs, and that screwed up that part of the world even more. Then we went over and we got rid of the what's his name in Iraq, and that completely destabilized that part of the world. And then we ended up with 9/11, then Afghanistan, and everything else that's going on. And again, remember something: the 9/11, I think 90% of the people that were involved in 9/11 were from Saudi Arabia. Bin Laden was part of the Saudi royal family, a distant, I don't know the exact details, but he was part of that. And the royal family supported his efforts to raise guerrilla warfare and everything like that. It started back when he was, when the Russians moved in, you know. And he got help from the Americans, but then the Americans didn't want to leave. And he said, no, that's not what we wanted. That's not what we were fighting for. We're not fighting to replace one asshole with another. But that mentality exists everywhere. And it exists down in South America. You get rid of one asshole to get another one. You know, it exists in the United States with elections. You get rid of one person you consider to be an asshole, and you get something worse. Sometimes you get something a little better, but most of it doesn't. There's no benefit to any of this shit. Human nature is so to. I want to be in charge. That's what it's about, you know, and that's not good. I don't want to be in charge of anything. All right. Except myself. That's why I tended bar for a living, because I was in charge of myself. I made my money based upon my abilities. Yeah, I was a little dependent upon the atmosphere in the club, but I could choose that when I went to apply for the job, you know. And I always made money, even in bad places, you know. So I didn't have a following. I just took what was there and adapted my personality to it, you know. Oh, God. So, what are we doing now? Eagles lost last night. That might damage their playoff hopes. I don't know who's going to make the Super Bowl this year. There's a couple of, people are saying Buffalo with Josh Allen. I don't know whether you're going to see that so-called superstar quarterback make it in. Josh Daniels the Colts were on their way, and now Daniels is out for the year, so I don't know what's going to happen there. They were having their ups and downs, but he was proving himself to be a very, very, very good quarterback, and I feel bad for the guy. Bad coaches at the Giants, and then, getting kicked around a little bit. That's why I like Baker Mayfield so much. I thought from the day he came out, he was a great He was a good quarterback, a solid. It could be great, and I think he is. But he got screwed around by Cleveland, and then he went to I think he went to North Carolina, and then he ended up out in L.A. with I forget his name. He was a good coach, and that straightened his act out. And then he had a chance with the Bucs, and he came in, and he's done great with the Bucs. They don't have a great team this year. They suffered a lot of bad losses. I mean, he was on his way to being an MVP candidate until he lost most of his receiving core and everything else. When you can't get rid of the quarterback, you attack his weapons. It's the same thing in war. You attack, if you can't get rid of the object of your hatred, which is the leader of the country, you attack his supply lines and everything else and force him into capitulation. That's how you do it. It's very violent when you do that, but that's the way it happens, So what else is happening these days? Lucy's over here. She's very calm lately. She's a beautiful, beautiful girl. I hope she's all right. I hope she's getting enough exercise because it's hard for me to walk and everything, you know. And there's certain areas she won't go into. She won't walk down to the grocery store with me anymore because right next to the grocery store is the pet store where she got her nails and everything done, and she's just very unhappy about that. So, you know, I have to deal with her unhappiness. But I might take her with me this afternoon. We'll see what happens. That's all about that. What else can I say? Can I say anything else? I don't think so. The first of the year is going to be really, I mean, the way they're pushing this stuff through the Supreme Court and everything, could be this could be the year, you know. The end of the year could be really, really horrible. And I refrained from wishing bad things on Trump because I don't want that crap to come back at me right now, you know. Until he starts messing with my Social Security, and that's when people are going to get upset, and by then it's going to be too late to be upset, all right? You had your shot, okay? And it's going to take, he's going to put in plans, and you're going to think you're going to be better off with something until a couple of years from now, and you find out you're not. A lot of countries found that out. Chile, in South America, Chile, Argentina, whatever. These countries find out the hard way. Okay, the United States has found out the hard way. You know, you've got bad people in government. And I don't know what gets them elected. Some sort of corruption is going on, you know, in some of these states and everything, and that's just, you know, the way it goes, you know, and I'm sorry about that, and I feel bad about that, but there's nothing I can do about it from here except talk about it, you know. All right, listen up. I know I'm depressing. Man, you know, I start taking some vitamin B or something, you know. This is really being a damn, you know, if I stop reading the news, I got nothing to talk about. Even sports, the teams I like are doing shitty. So, you know, where's the happiness at? You know what I can't figure out? One of the things I have to figure out is why there's no NBA basketball on TV down here now. All of a sudden it's gone. I have to figure out what's going on with that. All right. So, everybody, listen. It's Wednesday. Have a great day. I mean, it's Tuesday. I'm sorry. Boy, I'm rushing this week in the year, you know? At my age, you don't rush. You want to go the other direction. You want to go back, take it slow, make everything last a long time, because you never know, you know. All right, everybody have a good day. Talk to you tomorrow. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button. All right. You know, you never asked me why I wasn't live when I said I was going to be live last week, okay? I had all kinds of problems with my setup here, and so I'll tell you to check again tomorrow, but I don't know for sure, you know. I'm supposed to go to the doctor in the morning, but I think that's changed till Saturday, so we'll just see what happens tomorrow, and I'll try it. I don't make any promises, but I'll try to go live tomorrow morning, because I don't try to fix the problem during the week, because I got too many other things to do, you know. So anyhow, we'll try it tomorrow again. You look for me between 10:30 and 11. A lot of it depends on the weather, how long it takes me to walk Lucy and everything else. But I should be on by 11 if I'm coming on at all. And in the meantime, hit that subscribe button. You know, that gives me incentive to fix this crap and buy new stuff if I have to. And I will definitely see you one way or the other tomorrow.